Welcome once again to the Icons. I'm your host, the sports professor Rick Horrow. This month, we talk to one of the most influential folks at the NFL, responsible for the major events like the upcoming NFL Draft, Super Bowl, international expansion, and much, much more. Peter O'Reilly, NFL executive of Club Business, International League Events, is our guest this month. Let's get started by going inside the Icon. Peter O'Reilly graduated from Notre Dame in 1994. He was the senior manager of the Notre Dame football team that finished number 2 in 1993. He spent 6 years in the NBA and the league's marketing department for leaving to get his MBA at Harvard. O'Reilly then worked as a senior marketing and sports manager for NYC 2012, the group that worked to try to get New York to host the 2012 Olympics. He joined the NFL in 2005 as vice president of fan strategy and marketing and took over his current role as an executive VP in January 2022. O'Reilly's roles also include oversight of club business development. He's played a lead role in turning the NFL Draft from a modest event in front of a small audience into a cornerstone event on the sports calendar every single April. So now, based on that wonderful title that rolls off your tongue, what don't you handle?
Oh, tons of stuff, but I'm fortunate to have an incredible team, and so obviously all of our major events and the international world continues to grow. But it's an awesome squad, and feel fortunate to have been now at the NFL 18 years and working on some special things.
Well, the special things get specialer. Obviously we'll talk Super Bowl, but Pro Bowl and draft and international events, and the plate gets larger and more diverse. And your experience is interesting. You come to the NFL in 2005 and an ABC Sports studio coordinator, NBA production and marketing, NYC 2012. All of those things basically prepared you for your diverse role with the NFL that you probably didn't know it at the time.
Definitely didn't know it at the time, but it's been, every little bit you learn, you add, like going all the way back to college and working for Lou Holtz at the University of Notre Dame, doing all the behind the scenes things on the football side. So much of that I tap into now, all these years later. But as you know, it all interconnects. All these different functions tie together. There are no silos in the sports industry. So it's been great to just learn from amazing people and keep accumulating knowledge and trying to do the right things.
All right, Super Bowl guru. A few questions. Like I said, we're taping this in Vegas, but there is a regular expectation that one Super Bowl gets better and bigger than the other. I've come to know that there is a huge, now probably encyclopedic volume of checklist items. How large is that checklist book now? Could you carry it, or is it too heavy even for you?
Yeah, we're in a digital age, Rick, so it's much more, it's much less voluminous, but it is that checklist and the kind of the daily, and it's as it's really a 3-year process or so from at least from the awarding of the games, this most recent one in Las Vegas, all the way through the year. So you've got the different spinning plates of the Super Bowls that have been awarded, and then you're just kind of working through, and then you get into that last week, and the checklist is long, and you've got a great team, and it's you got to get the basics right. The two teams, everything around the game itself. You can't forget why we're here. And then it it ripples out from there across everything we're doing with fans and partners and, the hundreds of millions around the world watching.
So Jim Steig's checklist was a manila folder, and then Sapovitz's got a little bigger. I know it's digital, but give the folks a sense of the immense scale, not just the growth, but where it is now.
Yeah, it is, the small family that comes together in Super Bowl. We will credential more than 20,000 people, or we do credential more than 20,000 people for the Super Bowl. You really, even in a market like Las Vegas that's used to putting on major sports and entertainment events, you're really pulling together in a unique way all parts of that community, every sector, in order to make it work. It's a Tier 1 national security event, so you've got kind of all those security layers that come over the top of everything, which are appropriate. So it does have kind of every component to it. when you're putting on not only the single biggest annual sporting event, the biggest concert of the year, the biggest advertising showcase of the year, and then doing that in a way that can't just be for the 60, 70,000 people in the stadium or even the broadcast, but you've got to make sure you engage the whole community and making sure that they feel and should be a part of Super Bowl. So you've got all of those layers to it, which makes it fun. You've got everybody in the room there. Everybody is best in class, and you trust them in their role to make decisions when those things that are unexpected come up.
The Vegas piece of this makes it easier because it is a mega event town, had Formula One, houses international events, or is it harder because you have more weirdos coming into town?
It is it's definitely a combination of those two. First of all, from the first, we did an NFL draft in Vegas. We did 2 Pro Bowls here, now Super Bowl. So they've got incredible people who just know how to do this. So from that perspective, you just feel like you've got a trusted partner who knows how to go big. But it's also unique because take Super Bowl, for example, a normal, quote unquote, normal Super Bowl year in Vegas without the game here is massive. One of their biggest weekends of the year. Then you layer in actually having the game here, and that brings obviously a whole nother level. So, and then just, it's so compact, which is great. You've got, no shortage of hotels, but everything is right there on the strip. So you've got the transportation elements, all of those components. A stadium that the Raiders, Allegiant Stadium, is gorgeous, but a very tight footprint relative to some of our other campuses where you've got, tons of parking and all that space. So there's those operational pieces, but at the end of the day, the experience of Vegas outweighs all other factors.
It is a very, very restricted footprint, and people have to adapt, especially in a mega event town, right?
Yeah, it's not a traditional, game footprint. It's not a traditional Raiders or wherever we are from a security perspective and otherwise, and you adapt. And, in this, there's a lot of, you adapt. You walk across the Hacienda Bridge from the Strip and you're right there. But it is, as we always say, you got to, over and over, make sure people know before they go everything going on. And that's that is one of the unique parts of Super Bowl. It is not like your traditional game, and a lot of things are at a premium, including parking.
Tell me about shared information in a mega event community of professionals. So, I assume we'll have a welcome sharing with the 11 stadium folks in the U.S. and the ones in Canada and Mexico that'll be part of the World Cup, which is Super Bowl weeks on steroids, so to speak. But then you obviously have other mega events all over the world. This becomes a laboratory. I assume you guys share a lot of information, especially on security?
We do. There's great collaboration and respect across the major sports properties, whether that is, the FIFA or World Cup folks here for 2026. To your point, a lot of vast majority of shared stadiums, they'll look at what we're doing at Super Bowl operationally, security wise, similarly with Olympic folks, obviously Paris right ahead of us. We're working very closely with LA 28 now that flag football is an Olympic sport for LA 28. And those tie-ins, obviously we learned a lot from F1 coming through Las Vegas. The more we do globally, in major soccer stadiums around the world and working with soccer leagues around the world, that sharing is big, whether that's working with the Premier League, whether that's working with Bundesliga. That sharing is great. There's so many talented people, and we want to make sure we're sharing what we know and we learn a lot from them.
When you go to sleep at night, you should have a warm feeling knowing that you're dealing with 100% of the stuff you can control. But then you wake up in the middle of the night and you worry about the 100% of the stuff you cannot control, like the famous Dallas ice storm. We can go on and on and on. How do you personally deal with the situation as a great buttoned up type A guy, but you can't control a lot of this stuff?
That's one of the greatest challenges of this role. And you you try to compartmentalize that, and you've got to plan for and have contingency scenarios for those things that you can't control. Weather certainly is high on that list, but there's other things on that list, and that's the incredible part of this team is we pull, and you meet for years, and then you get into the stretch leading up to the event, and you're meeting every morning with every function across the NFL, security, broadcasting. You've got the National Weather Service on there. You've got every element, and you're working through those scenarios. And you always tell yourself, kind of the more you work through those scenarios, combined with a little bit of good living, hopefully you'll catch a break. But it is just the trust of that team to say, let's work through each of those, and then having the reps and the trust in the moment when, as Frank Sapovitz writes in his book, when things go wrong, it's you're ready and you have those opportunities to get it right. At Super Bowl, that sits within NFL control. That's our hub on game day and at our other events as well. You've got everybody in the room there. Everybody is best in class, and you trust them in their role to make decisions when those things that are unexpected come up. And I give the commissioner tons of credit on this of looking at let's take this thing to the fans in a way that's that much more accessible and is built into the heart of cities around the country.
Like any good athlete, you're in a zone. How do you define your zone? Is it Sunday morning through the end of the game? Is it the whole week? I remember I walked in on Frank when he was in the broadcast center about 30 minutes from kickoff. And luckily, he's so short because he tried to punch me and he couldn't reach me. But it's like, you can't have any outside interference. How do you zone out? I'm sure it's supportive family and friends as well.
It's always the broader window of feeling more in the zone is actually when you get on the ground in Las Vegas or in any Super Bowl market or any event market. But, we're typically, our team's on the ground for 5-6 weeks in advance. I'm typically there about 3 weeks. So once you're on the ground and you feel in the rhythm of it and you start, the plan is in place and you're working the plan and reacting to it. Definitely on game day, you get into it. You have that opportunity to, the day before, kind of in this case, see my wife and kids, and you're grounded in that, and then you have just such faith in the team, and you're there at the stadium early, and you're running it through, and it is adrenaline plays a big factor, and you're in that zone, and you feel incredible pride because of the people who are around you who are just so good, and you trust.
Let's do draft next and then international before we wrap up.
Great.
2014. So the guy that let you leave Radio City, is he there anymore? The guys that you did the lease with, did they understand the significance of what they let get away?
I'm not sure. They're obviously amazing folks over there with whom we still work in many different ways. But the evolution of the draft has been, one of the most, I'll say, fun things that I've been a part of. It just to take what was a great event, incredible event at Radio City in prime time, with the cachet of Radio City, and I give the commissioner tons of credit on this of looking at let's take this thing to the fans in a way that's that much more accessible and is built into the heart of cities around the country. And just to see whatever example you want to use of 300,000 people on Lower Broadway in Nashville, or 250,000 people on the Benjamin Franklin Parkway in Philadelphia, or Kansas City, just that sea of red. There's something Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. Draft is this really accessible, free event that's this oasis in our off season where fans can, without overstating it, it's this bit of hope. Everyone comes out better on the other side, and hope springs eternal. So you can hear my passion for the draft. It's really this intersection of college football and the NFL that just feels great and accessible. So we're thrilled to keep growing it.
How about the pieces of it that say that the communities use it as an opportunity to celebrate their urban development and where they've come so far? Look at what the Ford family is doing with you in Detroit, obviously, and then the celebration of the museum that is professional football in Green Bay, and goes on and on. When you started this in Chicago, did you ever have any feeling that it would be as big as it is today?
I did not. You have such, we know NFL fans, we know their passion, that they're gonna come out. That first year in Chicago, I remember looking out over Michigan Avenue the day before the game and seeing a stream of jerseys of all teams, not just Bears fans, getting kind of at the gates ready, 24 hours in advance, kind of looking into Grant Park. So you had an inkling then, but to see what it's become, and to your point, what we have ahead of us in Detroit and then Green Bay is these cities have been incredible partners, and we're part of a broader story in these cities. And Detroit is doing incredible things in downtown Detroit. So to bring the draft into that Campus Martius area and have this really great, free, accessible event for fans there across that period, and then to go into a city like Green Bay and put on what we hope to be one of the biggest events in that city's history. It's really really satisfying to kind of craft those visions with these cities. So we had an inkling, but maybe not the full vision of where we are today. There is this momentum that is there because of fans loving our game around the world, and the commitment of our owners to say, we're committed to playing more international games every year and see the vision and the opportunity to become a true global sport. And at the end of the day, it starts with bringing our game closer to fans around the world.
Let's do international. So,
yeah.
Are you going to have to learn how to speak Brazilian and German?
Portuguese, we're getting together, getting a little Portuguese in there. But this is, we are thrilled to be playing in Sao Paulo, as we announced fairly recently. Part of week one, kickoff weekend, Friday night with the Eagles down there. 38 million NFL fans in Brazil will now, for the first time, get a chance to have the pride of an NFL regular season game in their market. It follows on the heels, as you said, of the last 2 years in Germany, an incredible game in Munich, 2 games in Frankfurt last year. We'll be back in Munich in 2024. There is this momentum that is there because of fans loving our game around the world, and the commitment of our owners to say, we're committed to playing more international games every year and see the vision and the opportunity to become a true global sport. And at the end of the day, it starts with bringing our game closer to fans around the world. So this is an area that, you're going to see more and more from us on.
And it works both ways. We'll give Steve Ross a little bit of credit. I was down many years ago now to Buenos Aires and Argentina, but also in Brasilia with the ambassador and Sao Paulo and Rio, and talking about a quid pro quo where some of the Brazilian teams would come to Hard Rock. And this was early, but this was a time where you hadn't formulated a South American strategy, but now you have. And after hearing Mark Welf and Orlando FC and the Brazilians and what he's doing in Minnesota, it does cut both ways, right? It
does
one way, it's going back the other way.
100%. I give, those are 2 great examples. Steve Ross and the Dolphins were early on, and to your point, we've now have a program where clubs can have global marketing rights and apply for those different markets. But Steve early on was very bullish on, we need to be in Brazil, and it cuts both ways for sure. And those soccer clubs certainly see the value of eyeballs back into the U.S. on them and opportunities to build relationships in the U.S. And like I said earlier, we want to do that. That's why we're working closely with Premier League and Bundesliga and other properties, because there's got to be mutual value, and it definitely does cut both ways, and that's a good thing.
And it's a good thing, too, that the NFL is now a member of the International Federation of American Football heading into the 28 event, and you're personally involved in it, too. That'll be cool.
It's amazing. For people who haven't seen elite flag football played by women and men, it is incredibly exciting. Obviously, it's now the format with our NFL stars for the Pro Bowl games. I had the chance to go to the World Games, 18 months ago and see Team Mexico win the gold, the women's team. And that, I'd seen a lot of flag football over the years, but this is something that is among the fastest growing sports in the world. We're seeing the Olympic announcement propel that. And our IFAF partnership, to your point, is really strong. So it is, in this country, it will be a sanctioned high school sport for girls in all 50 states in the not too distant future. The momentum of women's college flag football. You hear Charlie Baker talk about the opportunity for that. Huge momentum here on a sport that's really accessible and super exciting.
How do you prioritize? How do you allocate? How do you delegate? And maybe most important, how do you judge your own personal success on this stuff? Because the sky is really the limit.
It comes down to, and it may sound Pollyanna, it comes down to just the incredible people with whom we work every day on the event side, on the international side, on the club business side, and across the NFL. That may sound a little Pollyanna, but that's definitely how we're looking at every day and every decision.